Okay.
Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. Hey, before we get started with our guest today, I just want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to Emergo Academy. My friends, and as well as my coaches, Dave and Susan Kenny, they are the owners and the founders of Emergo Academy. Emergo Academy. They are actually out of Canada. These guys actually came to Salt Lake a couple of years ago to kick off our Healing Utah Success Summit. But the reason why I ended up coaching with these guys is because they're all about the brain first approach. They really don't sit down with people and talk about their trauma, or they don't talk about their addiction. It's just a matter of asking certain questions and ourselves figuring out our own answers, which is really, really cool. So, guys, even if you're not interested in becoming a crisis and recovery coach, just with what these two teach you will help you with your everyday life. A lot of you guys know I've gone through quite a few struggles in 2025, just like thousands of other people. And really, I owe a lot of what has helped me get through this from their coaching as well as their friendship. Those two have always been there for me. I don't know any other coaches that will sign you up to take their course and then basically disappear. Not these two. These two are there from day one, and they have been. Anytime I need their help, anytime I reach out to them, they always get back with me. So, again, guys, check out Emergo Academy. That's EMERGO Academy.com. I am really excited to have our guest on today. It's been a while. I've been trying to get her on for at least about a year and a half, and we finally made it happen. When it's time, it's time. So today, with our beautiful guest, Rachel Liddell, we are going to be talking about the courage to take accountability. So, Rachel, thank you so much. It was so good to see you at Recovery Day and chat with you for a little while, as always. And it's just great to have you on the show. So thank you for your time.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I understand, it's your first time really being on a podcast. So this is really cool. I like it. And you don't seem nervous at all. You seem like you're just nice and cool and calm and collect, just like every time I see you.
You can see like all the people that'll eventually listen to it. Then I would be talking.
Well, with the title, the courage to take accountability, both you and I know, as well as a lot of our listeners, that is a huge step in our recovery, right? Is taking that accountability. And is that what you have found? I mean, when you finally decide, look, I'm going to start taking accountability for my life and my actions, was that like your first stepping stone, or was it some other stone that got you started?
Well, that definitely didn't come till a lot later.
Okay.
Um, I I was in and out and trying, I guess. I wouldn't even say I was trying for a really long time to get clean. Um, but when I had finally found myself in jail and I knew that the only way that I was getting out was getting through this program, CATS, um, that's when it all finally hit, where it's like, I'm here because of my choices at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
And, um, when you're put in a cell and the only thing that you have to look at is yourself, like it, I mean, I guess I could have not taken the opportunity still, but there was some other things happening outside of jail, like in my family. My mom was in her own crisis, and just sitting in jail and feeling really helpless and just reflecting on the fact that if I hadn't made all these choices that led me to this moment that I'm in currently, I could be out there with my mom. I could be out there with my family. I could be supporting, right? Um, but that wasn't the case. But it was a good thing that it had happened the way that it did. Um, My mom was my biggest cheerleader, but she was also my biggest enabler for a long time. Um, I started in treatment and that cycle in middle school, whether it was paid groups that, were part of a probation or whatever, just court ordered treatment of some sort, whether it's the school district or the court. Um, I started that uh 13. I think my first class was when I was 12.
Hmm.
Uh, so I could write the book.
Yeah.
Somebody in Cats told me on my graduation day was like, "Man, you're like really treatment savvy. Like you know what to say." I'm like, "Oh no, someone that doesn't believe my bullshit."
I like it.
The first moment that I had one of those, I was like, "Oh wait, you're not buying this?" Yeah. I had gone through treatment so many different times out, and I don't think that, and I had been to all the pretty, bougie, fancy, nice ones, and been to all women's, and been to like, I think I've been sent to 10, completed half, um, and I was so incapable of acknowledging my part and why my life was the way that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy when we look back and realize what such a huge part of our recovery is, right? And that's a huge major part. Losing my past wife here in April and seeing all the stuff that she went through, 2.5 years sobriety, and then she fell back into the addiction and it grabbed her so hard. And I could see she was holding on to so many things. And even though I battled with my own addiction and not even becoming accountable till years later,
Yeah.
even in the recovery part of things, it's just so hard to see because there's nothing you can do to help them bring that out, right? It has to be to them. Because I remember bringing up things at times and it would just start an argument,
Yep.
and I go back now and really look at a lot of those times in those conversations. And I also have to take accountability for the part I played in it because I didn't really play a good part in a lot of it because not totally understanding it myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's hard for us to totally love someone with all the love they deserve to be given if we don't love ourselves first. So
Mm-hmm.
how can we talk about somebody else becoming accountable if we can't even become accountable ourselves?
Yeah. 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 Speaking of family, I know this was something that I said to you at you and Brooke at Recovery Days was I had just lost my aunt who battled with addiction for 32 years, so as old as me.
Mm.
um, I brought her picture because I wanted to highlight her.
Oh,
But
wow. What a beautiful lady.
yeah, yeah. And I thought a lot today on the way, just thinking about this and how the things that I didn't want to take notes or be, overthink it because I wanted to just show up, right? So it may be just kind of all over the place because that's
That's
just
okay.
how it goes.
It's all good.
But, and just that, because even in recovery, I had been rigid, I've been an enabler, I've been fallen out of being accountable, right? Like, um, and I know at Recovery Days, something that I had mentioned is uh, that I would take being an addict being the addicted person over being the loved one of the addicted person any day of the week. I would do my own addiction tenfold.
Interesting. Yeah.
um, and the reason for that is because I have full choice in when the insanity stops. And being the loved one, you don't have any control over that. You don't have a control over, you can fight, threaten, beg, plead, call the police. My mom's done that a few times. Like, you don't have any control over if that's going to be the moment that the lights come back on for that person, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because the same thing happened with that relationship I was just talking about, right? I was told by other individuals who had addiction in their family, whether it was their child or their spouse, most of the time it was their child. And it was like, you got to give them tough love, try the tough love. Man, I tried that for 8 years, got the same results every single time, yet I'd still keep trying. I tried getting on my knees and begging and crying and pleading. Did that for 8 years with the exact same results. It's doing the ignoring. I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to shut you completely out of my life. I did that for 8, 9 years with the same results. None of it worked. And
Yeah,
it's hard to be that other person on that other side because you love and you care about them. And it's like your hands are tied 100%.
100%. Um, I've seen it's on social media. I don't know if you've seen Brandy Mack on social media, but
Oh.
um, she's a mother of a daughter that's now in recovery. And I watched one of her videos one day, and it was about doing what you can live with.
Mm,
And for me in recovery, like I did what um with my aunt particularly, me and my aunt, the reason I wanted to bring her up is because she is a part of my story, and it's in ways that, I know that she didn't want for me. Um, but addiction, it does change people, right? Like we act in ways that we normally wouldn't in our sober mind. Like we do things that we normally wouldn't. Like every single list of like never would I ever's, I like checked it off twice or more.
yeah.
Um, and so she, with losing her and then seeing that video, it was perfect timing, but also has made me reflect on how I approach that, right? And like, how can you? Because people I feel like we weaponize the word enabling, and she talks about that in another video too. And how can we show up for people that are struggling in their darkest times with love and compassion and still be bound, and we can still show up for people in their darkest times with love and compassion and still be boundaried and not enable, right? And I think that it's like for a long time we've been taught that it's this black and white way that like you can't do both, but you can, right? Like there's still the person that we love, they're still deserving of being seen and heard. And for me, I knew that in the first while I couldn't be um, around my aunt a lot because we had used together. We had crossed that line. Um, and uh, I remember the first Christmas, my first sober Christmas in 2019, she came to my grandma's house, and that was my boundary, right? So it's like setting boundaries that you're willing to, if you need um, to uphold those, right? If you're met with a situation where you need to uphold that boundary, right? And she did. She came to my grandma's house, and so I let my grandma know that if she had come, that I would have to leave because of what for protecting myself, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I called and I talked to my aunt after I left, and I just, I explained why I needed to leave, but she always met me met you with kind, like she just understood. She was the most supportive person, and with her loss, like that's something that I've like been really trying to reflect on, is like how I can um how I can love more like her and show up more like her, because that's one thing that, even though she was really in the grips of addiction, she never lost that, you know. I don't know if you saw my post about her, but she was it didn't matter if it was 6 months past Christmas, like you were gonna get that Christmas present, like she just she did her best, right?
Yeah.
And I've been reflecting on that, doing what we can live with, because at the end of the day, like if that person dies tomorrow, all of the professionals, the family, friends, whoever that has an opinion on how you show up for the person that's addicted, that's important to you, they're not the ones that have to carry the weight, right?
Yeah.
Like, um, yeah, and I think that that's the important piece that I missed, right? Um,
And I get that too, because I missed a lot as well, and I don't want to take away from what you're getting ready to say. It's just that this thought came to mind that, you know, after my spouse went through like the third or fourth recovery thing, and then she'd tell me, well, I'm going to go back into recovery. And I got to the point where I'm like, really, I don't give a shit. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you've gone through three already. What the hell? They haven't done you any good, right? I was being ignorant and rude and pissy about it. And then somebody opened my eyes way down the road, and it actually got me crying because this person said, Al, even though she's been through six of them already, she's not stopped trying. See, that's where we go blind.
right.
We completely put those blinders on, and we don't understand that because we're still caught up in the anger and being upset and trying to figure all this out. And it did. I started crying, not realizing, instead of me going, oh my gosh, awesome, you know. Well, and I finally got to the point, it's like, okay, what can I do to support you? Right? I'm going to be here. I'll come see you, which I always did. I'll come and I'll support you. When you get your weekends, I'll come in and get you, we'll go hang out and do things, and we did that so many times. It was like Groundhog Day, so many freaking times. However, I told myself, once I was told that from a friend, that I was not going to be that way again. And I even remember once dropping her off at LDS hospital because she's like, I got to go to detox. And I'm like, frick, how many times have we got to do this again? Right. I was so mad. I took her up there. I got out. I put her bags on the lawn right in front of the emergency room. She got out of the car, could hardly stand up. And I says, and I'm crying. This is so hard for me to do. But I says, I have to leave you here. I cannot go through this again. And I had to leave. And I remember looking at her in the rearview mirror with just tears pouring down my cheeks and watching her as she's watching me drive away. And I'm hoping she's going to walk in that emergency room, right? So it's difficult, very difficult.
Yeah. And I think that part of that, like part I wanted to bring a lot of light to that, right? Because that's been a big um part of my recovery, is that being put on the flip side of that coin. Like I being the loved one of the addicted person is such a pain that unless you've got the lived experience, like you just don't get it.
Yeah. And then the time comes when
I
What was that?
don't think it gets talked about enough, you know?
You're right. I don't think it does.
And the loved ones, and it's like, fucking hey, man, well, you created the situation. Like people, they have their bandwidth too, you know? Like everybody's got their cap, their capacity, and their
Yeah.
limits. And yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
then it gets to that point too, right? Which we hope don't ever happen. But then we get to the point where we do, if we lose them, right? Because this is something that and I'm sharing this, I think probably for the first time. I had so many people say, Al, don't you dare blame yourself. Because I bent over backwards to do everything I could. I mean, I went through it for 8, 9 years, somewhere around that area in the depth of her addiction, and I still stayed married to her, right? I still kept fighting because I loved this woman with every ounce of my being. And when she fell back into it, you know, and then you get the call that she lost her life.
Yeah.
I feel like since April, it wasn't so much until probably the last couple months where I'm beating myself up. And I know with my coaching and my training to not do this, right? However, it's still very difficult going, I could have done this better if I just would have understood this more, right? And I'm doing a lot of the what ifs and the could haves. And even though I know that probably wouldn't have changed anything, and I have to keep telling myself that, but then we lose them. And then we start feeling that guilt and we start feeling that shame just the same way that they were feeling when they're in the depths of their addiction. So it's like we switch places.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's being a professional of the field, right? Like of behavioral health, we know all the right things and whatever, right? But when it's somebody that's personal and closest to you, it's like all that shit just goes right out the window.
It does. It does.
Like you don't know what the fuck to do.
Uh-huh.
Like
100%. Yeah.
like you know, but you don't, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's why I loved it when I heard what that woman said, that Brandy Mack, do what you can live with,
Yeah.
you know? Because that's the reality. Like, that's the reality. That's a commonality for us all, right? Like, we've lost somebody to this. Um, Many somebodies. And I think that that's like I was thinking about it on my way up here, um, about my grandma particularly. And we all would, you know, be kind of hard on my grandma because she would still like she would just drive herself mad with my aunt, just drive herself fucking mad. I'd tell her almost on a weekly basis, Grandma, you're placing normal people expectations on someone who's addicted to drugs. Like you're setting yourself up for disappointment every time, right?
Mm.
We would all be so critical of how involved she still was in my aunt's life, knowing that she was a drug addict, right? Like, and knowing that she was in a trap house and just all the things that we knew, right? And it hit me today that my grandma was just doing what she could live with, you know? And we're still going to face those moments of like, shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know?
Hmm.
And like, I think that that's part of just being a human being and being a human being that's striving to do better is like, it's okay to look back at situations and ask ourselves that, right? In any situation, not even just with someone that's addicted, just any situation. Like, did I do my best? And if there was room for improvement, where can I do better next time? You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head, really, Rachel, because it's all about life, right? It's those experiences and going through those dark moments. Because those, you know, my 11-year-old granddaughter we're on a, together driving to my place one day, and we got talking, and I was so shocked at her age. We started talking about some stuff in life, and she turned and looked at me and she goes, "Papa, if we don't have dark times, we'll never grow." And I was like, "Holy crap, this is an 11-year-old and she's got that figured out." It took me way into my 50s and 60s to get this shit figured out, right? And she's 11. I'm like, maybe I'll hire her to be my coach. It's
I feel
like,
like
wow.
if we can be humble enough to like sit back and listen, we can learn so much from kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Seriously, we really can. And again, you hit the nail on the head because especially this past year for me with all the stuff I've had going on, I like to say, me and my buddy Cap, we like to say, look at the message in the mirror because it's going to teach you something.
Mhm.
And it does. And sometimes we may put a chip in that mirror. So what do we do not to put another chip in the mirror? Something else will come along in life that will add another one, and we'll continue to do that. Sometimes we may shatter the damn thing. However, it's what do we learn from it and what can we take from it? And every time that we do that, we just add, I think, another step in our growth, right? And it continues. And we cannot, I know people that feel like life is just supposed to be perfect constantly. And the word perfection, I also like to say, even with some of the training that I've had, is perfection is just reaching a point that can no longer be improved. You look at some of the greatest athletes out there, like a Michael Jordan or a Tiger Woods or um, somebody that I don't really care for, like LeBron James, but Kobe Bryant. These guys, they never looked at their craft as them being perfect. They were constantly working on it. That's what all of us need to do with life. And bringing that accountability and with it is a huge part of that growth because we can work on things, but if we don't take accountability for our actions and our mistakes, we're not growing. We're on that escalator that's basically the stairs are constantly moving and we're just stepping in one place, right? We're not really getting to where we need to go.
Right. Something that came up today in like the wonderful Facebook memories, the love-hate relationship that I have with them. I'm like, God, I was fucking annoying. 41, I was 41 days clean 8 years ago. And it was my second time going through treatment. And like from that moment, just how much like I thought I knew like addiction and just thought that I knew like the lifestyle and whatever. Like I had no idea. I had been a drug addict in my parents' basement for the majority of my addiction career, if you will.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it, I guess.
And it was Christmas Eve that year that I had walked out and got in a car with someone that I knew that had relapsed and started using again. And where life took me after that, like I never a lot of my story, there's a lot of trauma, right? There's a lot of sexual trauma, there's a lot of grief, a lot of losses, just a lot of shit, right? And so I thought that I like knew darkness or whatever in life. And I really just didn't have any idea until I decided that I was going to go be homeless on the streets.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, I don't regret it because I wouldn't have my son had I not decided to do that. um, but through all my treatments that I went through, I had landed at Annie's house. One of many, not one time, but many times I landed at Annie's house. And something that they in your day one packet. There's a point to all of this, I promise, but
Okay.
in the day one packet was to say I love you in the mirror for 2 minutes every day.
Mm.
One. I was like, day one? I can't even remember the last time I looked at myself in the mirror, you know? Like, and when you're given an assignment like that, Al, you really don't realize how, because I'm like, that's dumb. I can look in the mirror. But getting ready, doing your hair, making sure that you're looking whatever is very different than actually looking at yourself.
Hmm.
And I don't think I had ever done that. First time didn't do it. Second time, that was my first individual session that I had with the clinical director, Jason Webb. And I spent the first 30 minutes of our session after I'd just gotten back. I had just graduated 3 weeks before that, just gotten back the day before Thanksgiving. And he asked me, "Did you do your I love yous?" No, hands me a mirror. I sat there and just cried. Just,
Wow.
and then I finally did it. And he goes, "Okay, now do 2 minutes of I forgive yous."
Mm.
Yeah. Um, every place that I've landed, I've picked up pieces and something that's gotten me to here. But for the longest time, every time that I would relapse, it was I learned nothing, you know. And it wasn't until I was sitting a, in jail on my top bunk, uh, I got mail from Annie's house, and they had sent me the 6 month letter to myself. I had relapsed uh, at like 5 months, but I was still trying to do everything that I was doing when I was getting high, right? Like
Yeah.
I was still trying to I don't know if I should say that. I'm like, never mind.
Okay.
I was just still doing a lot of activities that I shouldn't that inevitably were gonna lead me back to the lifestyle, right?
Mm.
Like sleeping with everything. That was a thing. And I didn't believe Jason when he told me that men were my first problem. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. He was right. I have told him that. But, and just sitting in jail, and I got my 6 month letter to my future self. And
Wow.
it was simple. I remember the day vividly. I was walking out the door, and he's like, "Oh crap, did you do your letter?" And I said, "No, I've never done that." And I just hurried and jotted down, "I hope you're still doing well and taking your sobriety seriously. I hope you're still doing your I love yous and I forgive yous because they helped you so much." Right? Like that's all it was. I cried for 2 days, Al, in jail. I cried. I just carried that letter around and just sobbed. And it was probably because of getting that letter, because I was still pretty on the fence, even sitting in jail. I had been in jail for a couple months at this point, and not so much on the fence that like I wanted different, but I didn't believe that I could do it, you know?
To change that too a little bit, I just want to ask you this. Was it really all the believing that you couldn't do it, or also the fear of not knowing if that was possible?
Um, I think a lot of it for me was like fear of success and losing it again.
Okay.
So I was really good at self-sabotage. Um, so I think it was I mean, there's comfort in the chaos, right? Because
Yes.
it's familiar. And I really like I gotten a couple months here and there under my belt, but I really like I hadn't been sober minded ever, if that makes sense. You know?
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Not just the substances, like the substances were the relief.
It's the Band-Aid, right? Just going, putting the Neosporin on the cuts.
That was the easy part. Getting high is the easy part. It's realizing all your thinking errors, your behavior, all that shit, and having to correct or getting the opportunity to correct those things, right?
And then fill in the shame as it's coming as well.
And not running right back to the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I started doing my I love yous and I forgive yous. It was your mirror, like that brought prompted this. Because you have you ever been in jail?
No, thank goodness.
Real mirrors
Okay.
that knows what I'm talking about. um, they're not real mirrors, and I that was the first time that I think I ever looked at myself, you know? And I started doing those I love yous and I forgive yous in the mirror in jail.
Wow. How hard was it for you to do that? And the reason why I'm asking you that, Rachel, I'm going to share something. I've said this on the show a few times. I was invited to a class of a friend of mine that started coaching and went to this class, and it was a really good class. There's probably about 30 people in it. And he says, "We're going to give you some homework." And of course, as soon as he said the word homework, man, I just shriveled up because I didn't even like the word homework in school. That's why I never did it, right? you know, I pretended to, but I never did. And he goes, "We're going to pass around a piece of paper. I want each of you guys to take a copy of it, and it has these 7 affirmations on it." And it was things like, "I love you, you're amazing, you're wonderful, you can do this, believe in yourself." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've been practicing this for a long time, a lot of years, man. Shoot, I can do this homework. This is a piece of freaking cake. I went home that night and I did it for, I don't know how many days. And all of a sudden I realized something. Every time I went to tell myself one of those positive things, I looked away and then I'd come back and look at myself. And then I'd say the next one and look away and then come back. And I went, holy shit. I'm telling myself I believe I am all these things and I'm not because I'm looking away. If I cannot look at myself and tell myself this, I don't believe it. I'm lying to myself. And that taught me such a huge lesson, such a huge lesson. And I was speaking with a friend of mine, her name is Kelly at the gym, and sometimes her and I get into some really good conversation. And she was saying that, she's working harder on doing some a morning routine. And she asked if I had one. And I says, yeah, actually I do. And I says, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I grab my crutches because I don't have my prosthetic leg on, get my crutches, go into the bathroom, I turn on the light and I look at myself and I fricking make damn sure I am staring into my shit brown eyes and going, I love you. Thank you, God, for waking me up today. Thank you for this opportunity to hopefully see an amazing day. Thank you for what I have. I am so grateful for what I have right now. So, again, thank you. And that has made such a huge difference in my life of doing that every single frickin' morning. Then I have my other routines that I go through and do. But I just read something that somebody posted on social media, and it said if you want to change every single day, your mornings are the most important part of the day. And it's by starting out that day with something to be grateful for and loving yourself, right? I was at the gym. This girl by the name of Evie manages it, and she goes, I'm like, Evie, how you doing this morning? It's really good to see you. And she goes, my freaking morning's not going so good. I'm having a rough morning. And I says, rough morning? I'm like, hell, it's only 7:30. And she stopped and she looked at me, and Frankie, this other cute little gal that works here, and she starts laughing. She goes, "Yeah, the morning's not even over with yet." And she realized what we were saying. She goes, "Okay, let's just say the first part of my morning has been a little rough." And I'm like, "There you go. Change it, right? Change it." So it's that type of thing, like you said. And I'm really glad that you brought that up because really it does start our day off in a whole different direction.
Right. And I think that there's importance in like how you stopped that gal, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, there's so much power in our words and how we say things, you know? Like what you profess is what you're hearing.
Yeah.
What you're hearing is what you're reinforcing. And even just in those, in the little past, like when you make a mistake and you, fuck, I'm so stupid or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
being it's a conscious effort. It's not something like even years down the line, like we're human beings experiencing the human experience. Like that's just what it is. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's like, at least I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I know I'm not perfect, and what a relief it is to know that that is not an expectation I placed on myself,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. Because we're not placed here to be perfect. We're placed here to learn something, you know, and
And be
and and what's that?
to connect and be connected.
Absolutely. And sitting here listening to you share your story and being vulnerable and opening up, you know, and I don't know if you've ever looked at it this way, but Steve Jobs said it, if you connect the dots backwards of your life, you'll see that you're exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment. And I'm hearing that in my head the whole time I'm listening to your story, going, everything she has shared, you even brought up the point of having your son, right? It's like, and you even brought it, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had my son, which you shared earlier. That is my why,
Yeah,
right? So it's like all this stuff had to happen to
yeah.
put you right where you're at this very day as you and I are speaking. And even like the times trying to get you to have you come on the show, and I've had this with other guests. I mean, some guests finally got on after like a couple years or 3 years, and it's like I allow it to just go through because I'm like, when it's time, it's time. When God says it's ready, then it's ready. Until then, it stays where it stays.
I think like my treatment with Odyssey, so I'm a CATS and Odyssey outpatient. I did,
And let our listeners know, for those that don't know recovery, what is CATS? What does that stand for?
I don't know what it stands for, but I know that you do
Okay.
it.
Okay. I love it. That
I
sounds like one of my answers.
out until I did it. So that was quite motivating.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, we'll have to like hit up one of our Odyssey friends and see what it stands for.
I'll reach out to Randall.
uh, I'm super grateful for it, you know? Like I sat in that jail and having to do some of those assignments, like one of my, I think it was God, what is it? And see, I need to get my little, I have my binder. I keep a binder of everything from then, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's my impact statement. And like it has you looking at not only five people that you impacted, right? Not only five people that your addiction impacted, it's your community, your work, your like all these different areas of life, right? And how you're, and just having to, because sitting down to do it, I literally thought to myself, I was like, the community, my addiction didn't impact the community.
Who gives a shit?
No. I'm like, oh yeah, that one time at Walmart when I got arrested, and that was pretty crazy. And like, you know, just all these different times, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And the cops that would, I had so many police officers that showed me kindness, you know, in moments, and they get a bad rap too.
Yeah.
Today, what's the crazy? I've lived my life being like, the police, whatever. They get such a bad rap because today they don't mess with me. It's crazy, because I'm
Can't they
just like
leave you alone?
supposed to be doing, or whatever. Like I'm just minding my own business, just going to work, being like boring stuff, like not running amok, and they don't like come looking for me. It's crazy. Um, it's those things, right? Like where I was incapable of seeing like and being accountable to those things, right? Like, yeah.
You know, gosh, we're coming up close to the hour already. It goes by so fast, but I'd like to go back to your letter. I remember when my past wife had to write a letter. She had to write her own obituary. And I remember when she read it to me, I was sitting across from her just bawling, going, my gosh, how hard would that be to really sit down and do that? Going over and you get Annie's house, sends you this letter that you had written.
Yep.
You said that you had been clean 6 months. Is that right? It was a 6 months letter. Is that correct?
6 month letter to your future self, and I had relapsed around like five.
Okay.
It's already back in jail, like I had been. Yeah.
So your mind is cleared up a little bit, right? I mean, it's not totally where it needs to be because it takes a lot longer than 5 to 6 months, 8 months, and that. But to go back and read your words, you said you cried for 2 days. What was it that you told yourself, if you don't mind sharing? What was it that you was telling yourself that all of a sudden you realized, oh my gosh, look where I'm at right now, but this is what I saw myself as being 5 months ago, 6 months ago.
Um, God, that was like so long ago. Um, I know that I cried because I was like, I'm doing the same thing over and over. Like, when the hell am I gonna get this shit? Uh,
Yeah.
but I think it was like my celly. I had this really uh she was an older woman, and I think that it was her something that she had said to me like something about like you're so young, you still have opportunity to like turn it around, right? But I was like, doesn't and I one pivotal moment probably was that um I had had discussions with other girls in jail about no matter where you go, right? You can, if you're open to receiving, you're going to get healing. You're going to get whatever the lesson is in those moments. Like there's an opportunity to grow and learn wherever we are if we're open to receiving it. And I think it was probably in that moment because it was probably in something along those lines, like
Okay.
that some of the girls that I talked to about that, right? Like this is and then reflecting, like this is an opportunity. Like I can sit here and do the same thing that I've done all my life so far and be continue to be this perpetual victim in my brain, right?
Mhm.
Or I can take this as an opportunity to own this shit and like start making moves to do something different. And
Yeah. It as soon as you said own your shit, it brought something up real quick. Um, when I first started this podcast, my spouse wasn't very happy. right? Because she's like, all you do is probably talk about me, and she's going on. And she was right, right? I did. I talked a lot about her addiction. And we did our first Healing Utah Success Summit in August of 2022. A lot of people from TOSA was there. Dave DeRocher, the executive director, he got up and spoke. And I really admired how he spoke, and I asked if we could sit down together and I could get some pointers from him. And it took from August to January of 2023 before we had that opportunity to chat. I went to his office, and him and Robin met me there, and we had this talk. And basically Dave says, look, you want to be a better speaker, start sharing your own damn story instead of your wife's damn story. And
Mm,
at first I got really defensive about it. And then
mm,
I figured out, look, I gave this man permission to speak openly. I have to give him that opportunity to say what he needs to say. Well, it's funny how God works, right? So Robin actually was supposed to be my guest co-host that day. And so we went to the studio right after, and my guest didn't show. And I took that advice. I asked Robin if she would be the host of the show and interview me. And
mm.
she did. And we titled it Own Your Own Shit. Rachel, it's the first time I opened up on my show and was vulnerable about my 8-year weekend cocaine and alcohol usage.
Yeah.
I had kept it quiet the whole time. Here I am asking guests to come on my show and be vulnerable when I'm not even being vulnerable myself, right? And then the blessings that came out of it and the growth that came out of that. A couple months later, it was like March. So it was January when we did the show. March, I get a call from my oldest daughter, and she goes, Dad, do you got a minute? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, okay, well, we need to talk, and you're not going to like the first part of it. And I was like, oh, okay, where the hell is this going to go? And she told me that when I started my show, she was going to be my biggest supporter. But as time went, she didn't want to support me anymore. And she's telling her husband this too. She goes, I love my dad and I want to support him, but I don't want to support him anymore because he's always playing the victim. She goes,
Mm.
Dad, you was a victim. You went through a lot of stuff. But she goes, I know your past. Not once do you ever talk about it. And she goes, then I'm in my kitchen one day making dinner and I'm looking for podcasts and I see yours pull up and I see a woman's face instead of your face. And it said, own your own shit. And she goes, well, this is interesting. And she played it. She said she heard that, listened to the podcast twice. And she goes, Dad, whew, I just want you to let you know how proud I am for opening up. And she goes, I am now one of your biggest supporters. And because of that, when we did our Healing Utah Success Summit in April of 2023, I had my mom in the audience, one of my childhood best friends. We've been friends since we were 9, my aunt and uncle, and I shared my story for the very first time. And you can imagine the shock of my mom and my aunt and uncle and my buddy that said, hey, I battled with cocaine and alcohol for 8 years every weekend. And
Yep.
I shared in that talk that when I was finally vulnerable and open, my life completely changed. I had no clue how much weight I was packing around on a daily basis until you finally have that opportunity to where you finally grow up and release it. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I feel like I'm walking on air. Holy shit. Life just seems to be, a little bit better.
Like it hurts. It's not that it's not a hard thing to own your shit, right? But like there's so much power that you get back
Yeah.
situations and these hurts that we carry around, all this baggage. And like you get to have those moments where like, oh, okay, I can set this shit down now, right? Like it's not even just that's that being accountable and the forgiveness are just it's for that.
Yes.
you know, it is for that. It's lightening your load. It's like life is life, and where we can where we can make things lighter. Why not? Right?
Because life is hard enough as it is, right? I
Yes.
mean, I know someone who got coached and they were given a river rock about this big,
Mhm.
and they were told that they had to take that rock with them everywhere they went. If they went out to dinner, they had to take it with them. If they went to the store, they had to take it with them. They had to take it with them in the store. They had to carry that rock around everywhere they went for 1 week. And I witnessed it. I watched it.
Mhm.
And I'm going, man, this is crazy. You're packing around this rock everywhere we go, right? The whole purpose of that exercise was is to have that individual realize what we are holding on to and what a pain in the ass it causes in our life to take this effing rock everywhere we fucking go and not be willing to set it down and leave it. But again, that's how our minds work, right? Our subconscious mind is there. It's like you said earlier, it's like, oh man, I'm so effing stupid for doing something like this. Well, our brain, our subconscious remembers that. We called ourselves stupid. It
Yeah.
remembers,
Yep.
you know, instead of going something, oh my gosh, laugh about it. I was so silly for doing something so crazy. Change the wording just a little bit, and it really changes the new maps in our heads and the way our subconscious sees things. And again, releasing those rocks, let them go. I heard one of my buddies that did a talk, and he says, you start emptying the rocks out of the backpack and start filling it with gold, start filling it with nuggets.
Mhm.
I mean, is the backpack is heavy? Yeah, it's going to be really heavy as well. However, it's gold, right? It's more valuable. You're picking up more things that are valuable than things that are not valuable, like a rock.
That the picking up the rock and having to carry that around for that person, something that came up for me was that that's like being willing, right? Like you may not understand the purpose of something, but being willing to try it anyway, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what came up for me in that, and it had me thinking about just like some of the things that people will gripe about with treatment, and like that's something that I had to learn to do. Like my way and my thinking got me here I am. So willing to change everything until I'm asked to do something and then I'm not willing anymore. I like to always say like a willingness can't have a threshold,
I love that.
you know? You're
Yeah.
willing to have a threshold. Like I've always challenged that with someone
I love that.
because of
Well,
my experience.
yeah. Well, our experience is what helps us, right? We've got to take certain paths, and sometimes we make those wrong choices, and those paths lead us to an area where we can continue to go down the rabbit hole, or we can say, wait a minute, it's time to take a U-turn and go in a different direction, you know, and grow from it. Gosh,
Mhm.
Rachel, I'm enjoying this conversation so much. I could sit here with another hour and just have a conversation with you about where we're going. Unfortunately, I got another appointment to get to, and we have gone over an hour of it. First off and foremost, I just want to say thank you again for your time. And is there any little nugget you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
I think the perfect ending is own your shit.
I love it.
There's
I love it.
in your shit. There's freedom in it. And Brene Brown being brave, like owning your story is the hardest thing that you'll ever do. But there's a freedom in it, and that's including the good and the bad parts, right?
Yeah, I love
I
it.
didn't say where it goes, but someone can look it up if you're real curious.
Okay, I love it. Oh my gosh, that is a great heading. Own your own shit because there is freedom in it. I love it. Rachel,
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And I'm honored to have you on the show. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'm glad we had this opportunity. And again, thank you to Emergo Academy for your sponsorship, guys. I love you both, Dave and Susan Kenny. Again, guys, check it out. Emergo, EMERGO Academy.com. Also want to say thank you to all our past guests, our future guests. Thank you for your time and for being vulnerable and open up. And most of all, thank you to all my listeners. You guys are the ones that's keeping this show going. I mean, this is episode 366, and I'm still just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're coming up on 5 years here in March. So again, guys, you guys are the ones that's making this possible. Thank you. We're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.